Thank you, Joe. I loved that. That was really nice. I haven't heard that song in a very, very long time. Well, welcome to Unity of Tacoma. We are an online community with a physical presence right here at our 74th Street storefront. Whether you're joining us online or here in our meeting space, welcome. We're glad to have you here. I'm curious if anyone's brave enough to share what they decided their vehicle was. Anybody? Kayla's like, you said train? Yeah, why train? It's steady. Gotcha. A train because it's steady. Who else would be willing to share? Karen? The VW van, I totally see it, but tell me why. Adventure, comfort. I love hippie. This is a judgment-free zone. A good hippie. Actually, David, with all his gardening, I've taken to teasing him and calling him a dirty hippie. All right, Bill, did you say hoopty for really reals? Tell me why. 1956 Ford. That is so specific. I love it. Why? Okay, broken in, not going very many places, content with what it is. What else? And it's still going. Oh, I love it. Fantastic. Go ahead, Carlton. Chariot. Oh, tell me how you are a chariot. What's that? You don't have to do the work. I love it. All right, you know how to harness the power of what's around you. That's fantastic. Okay, all right, Linda, let's hear it. This is going to be good. A sailboat. Tell me why you're a sailboat.
Because it
Flows with the waves and weathers the storm. I see that. I absolutely see why you would pick that. It's interesting, the first time I did this exercise as someone who was asked, we were restricted to boats. If you were a boat, what kind of boat would you be? It was meant to be an icebreaker, but I took it deep. I took it very seriously. It was at the very beginning of my spiritual walk, and I very honestly said, I think I'm a dinghy. Oh my goodness, there's only room for one, and I just lash myself to something else to get where I want to go. And often I don't get where I want to go because I've lashed myself to something else. So that was my honest truth at the time. Where I am right now, because things change, right? We embrace change here. Where I am right now, I thought about it, well, if I'm going to ask them to decide what sort of vehicle they are, I guess I better figure out what sort of vehicle I am right this very moment. And right this very moment, I'm going to say I'm a helicopter. I'm very direct where I want to go. I kind of go in short bursts. I just fly over everything and not really consider much except my own personal direction. And boy, when I land, it's like, you know, like Marine One in a garden party, right? Everyone's, oh, Raylene's here. All right, then. So I think I'm a helicopter right now. And that's okay because things change over time, and I can use it as a tool to really understand how I express my energy out in the world. It serves me. It serves me in terms of I generally get where I'm going. Unfortunately, I also tend to ignore other people along the way and not really be tuned in with what's going on for someone else. And I can be a big mess, man. If I land in your garden party, trust me, skirts and tablecloths a-flying. It's just, it's not going to be pretty. But I get her done. That's the plus side of that. When I come to church on Sundays, I order a Lyft, you know, like Uber, but I order a Lyft. And today, my Lyft driver could not find me. Even with GPS, he could not find me. And I'm standing there, and I'm watching him drive by, and I'm on the phone with him. I'm like, hey, you driving a black car? Yes, I am. Well, you just drove right past me. It's like, okay, I guess I better turn around. So he comes all the way around the block and drives past me again. I'm like, dude, see me waving? Oh, you're gone. Okay. It took like an hour to get here. I could have taken a bus downtown and then taken a bus uptown to get to here faster than George got me here. But that happens sometimes when you take a taxi, right? If your vehicle's a taxi, maybe it's because you allow other people to steer your direction through life, right? Like when I was a dinghy, I allowed somebody else's big dream to guide me. I was very happy as a stay-at-home mom, or so I thought, until the boat started going someplace. I'm like, no, wait, no, aren't we going over? Apparently not. So to wake up and become something a little more autonomous where I can find my own direction in life was a huge awakening. I'm sure I could do some work and kind of go back through time and figure out what vehicle I was at various stages along the way. When I dream, anytime I dream of any vehicle, I think of it as my spiritual vehicle. I love to do dream interpretation. Not because I think that that's just the way to tap into your subconscious. I actually do believe that, but I also think that we can find meaning in just about anything, and that's where I find meaning. So I had a series of dreams where I was a train. Now, in the dream, I wasn't really happy being a train. It was steady, but it only went two places, here and here, and then back here, and then back here. And I kind of gave some thought to why that train might have appeared in my dream and how that might be like my spiritual vehicle. And like you said, it was comfortable. I knew what to expect. Occasionally we'd get off schedule, but it didn't matter. When we got the train back going, I knew exactly where it was going, and I needed that. I needed that routine. If I weren't going to be able to fly my own helicopter, man, a train was a good way for me to go. But the same was true in my spiritual life. For me, it's going to be different for everybody, but I was doing what was comfortable. I wasn't taking risks. I just needed that safety for a moment because things had gotten kind of chaotic. And so a train matched me very well. But you can look around you at other people and get a pretty good sense of what their spiritual vehicle might be in terms of like a spirit animal, their spirit vehicle, right? By watching how they engage in the world and what they do and how their energy is. And have you ever met anybody who's an ambulance? Their entire journey is taking care of other people. That's how they express their spirituality. That's how they learn through the world. It's their calling to be in service to others who are unable to help themselves in the moment. We are teaching our grandchildren to call fire trucks and ambulances drama trucks. You ever met someone who's a drama truck? Boy, if there's drama, they'll go find it. Woo, 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 here she comes. There must be some drama around. Regardless of what your spiritual vehicle is, your spirit vehicle is, use it as a tool for coming to understand better who you are and how you operate in this world. We are starting our new series, Thr Drive To Thrive. We got a little bit of a head start on it with Financial Peace University. But thriving isn't just about money. It just happens to be where we started. I like using money because it's measurable. You can really tell the difference between being in the hole and having some savings, between panicking at the end of the month and feeling confident through all of the financial ups and downs, right? As I watch my 401k just with coronavirus on the scene, everyone's 401k is taking a hit. I'm good, I'm fine. I'm just breathing through it and doing my spiritual work and knowing that I am abundantly supported. And because I went through Financial Peace University, I have assets that I can rely on in order to get me through anything. I put these up here in my car, in my truck, to be a visual aid for the spiritual vehicle, but I had to haggle with the kids to get them. So this was a hard one, altar, I just want you to know, getting it here. The Drive to Thrive is more about, more than just about money. The Drive to Thrive is about your emotional thriving. The Drive to Thrive is about your spiritual thriving. It's about your well-being overall. And each week, it's my intention to present a tool or an idea or something that you can play with throughout the week to find yourself thriving in better and better and bigger ways, right? If you can identify what your vehicle is, you can identify what your current strengths are and what your current barriers to greater living are. I know how I show up in the world. I know I just blow everything all around and tend to be more direct than people would like. And understanding it from that perspective helps me to remember to soften, to listen, to be receptive, and not so directive. Being direct serves me. It absolutely does. Absolutely serves me. But it can also hold me back. It can hold me back from nurturing relationships. It can hold me back from getting something done in an even better way because I failed to collaborate. I got an idea and I went for it. And I didn't soften and open and bring other minds and hearts into the process. So if you just take a moment to examine your personal energy and how you show up in the world, you find that you've encountered a tool for thriving even more. How can you take what you learned about yourself as a vehicle and match it to how you show up emotionally? How can you take what you learned about yourself as a vehicle and match it to how you show up socially? How can you take what you've learned about yourself and your vehicle and how that matches how you show up in every arena of your life, whether it's professional or personal, spiritual or emotional? It's an opportunity to take a step back, go into observer mode, and just watch yourself and be honest with yourself about what serves and what doesn't serve. We're going to have guest speakers coming in. I've been talking to people about their availability and how they might like to come in and talk to you guys. And I'm asking each of them simply to come in and talk about what it means to them. What does thriving mean to them without really giving them much more prompting than that? So that you get an idea of who they are and the different ways that ministers approach different topics. I'm looking at bringing in some very, very basic metaphysics and introducing basic metaphysical concepts, such as the law of attraction, which was so big, about, 15 years already? Law of attraction got really big, but also the law of reciprocity, the law of correspondence. They're just one tool. Each of them is just one tool. It's not a complete cosmology. But the more tools that you have in your toolbox, the more likely you are to be able to go through any circumstance, any situation, any personality, and come out on the other side a bigger, better, more wonderful person yourself. When I had the idea about the Drive to Thrive, I wasn't even sure what it was. I thought maybe I heard it somewhere and just the rhyming, the internal rhyming settled in with me, but it wouldn't go away. It wouldn't go away. And so when I had an opportunity to come in and be the ministry coordinator and to have an opportunity to do these talks, I thought, no, this has got to be for a reason. This has got to be for a reason. I want to take what I have done through my spiritual walk. I want to take what I have done and learned through my financial walk and through my emotional walk, and I want to share some of those experiences, and I want to hear some of your experiences, and I want to leave a mark on this community before I leave that supports each and every person stepping into a greater way of being in their own life. So each talk is intended to give you a tool or an idea to play with that supports you through your journey. And I'd love to hear from all of you about how that manifests in your life, how what that looks like in your life. If you find, like, I after the white stone ceremony, there's one way of working with spiritual ideas. I had several people come and talk to me about how, this is what it's looking like, or that is what it's looking like. And I'd love to hear those stories from you as we move into this idea of Unity of Tacoma as something new and fresh, a freshly planted ministry that's going to grow and come to fruition in a way that we've not had before. We're looking at sending church packets out to potential ministers. And one of the things that we'd like to do is we'd like to have you guys on video interviews talking about what Unity of Tacoma means to you. What's your greatest learning from this philosophy? And why Unity of Tacoma and not someplace else? You have a lot of choices when it comes to where you'd like to spend your Sunday morning. You could be spending it in nature. You could be spending it at another spiritual community. You could be spending it at home in your pajamas, but you show up here. Why? I want to know. And so does the next leader. And so it's my hope that we can create a space for you to really get deep with that idea, because when we ask ourselves, what is Unity of Tacoma? What is our identity as a community? That identity is present in the train and the hoopty and all the other vehicles that came to mind. It's not what I want you to be. When we make this transition, you'll see the back of me going, and that's it. I won't be back in this building for a year at least. So it's not about what I want. And as a helicopter, believe me, I could tell you what I want this place to be. But that's not what it is. It's who are we as a whole, and what do we want to see emerge from the ministry that we're doing? How can we help you thrive? Wouldn't it be great to be able to tell the next minister what has helped you so far and what you see helping you as you move forward? Wouldn't that be great? So these talks are intended to start sparking ideas in your mind. Just like with the 5 basic principles, I was constantly pounding into you, let's be able to talk about the 5 basic principles. When you can talk about the 5 basic principles, you can see how they support you in your life, and you can draw a straight line. That was a very important tool. That's why we spent a whole 6 weeks series on the 5 basic principles. And now I want to introduce some of the basic metaphysical principles so that you can see how you're using those in your life. Start drawing connections, and continue using them to grow and to thrive and to be bigger than you were before. One of the things that I see as being vital to the future of the community is a willingness to change. And all of you are like, well, I mean, if we haven't changed over the past year or 2 years, if I have just by being here not proven that I'm willing to change, I don't know what'll convince you. But it's interesting. Sometimes when change comes our way, we don't see it as, this is change. I need to go into spiritual mode and drop back and evaluate, right? Usually it just feels like someone doesn't understand me, doesn't understand what my needs are. I know I've used the peace song as an example, and just talking to people about the idea of dropping the peace song, I've completely felt the energy shift around that. I think the first time I mentioned it, there was a little bit of tense energy, like, Oh, no, a new person wouldn't do that. But they might. What would that mean? What would that look like for you? That feeling, if you got that feeling when that was mentioned, that's the feeling that you want to tap into. That's your biggest clue that growth is afoot. Something amazing is about to shift. I don't talk very much about my ex-husband. A big part of that is because of the forgiveness work that I've done, which I'm going to talk about next week. Our tool next week is going to be about forgiveness. But I'm here to tell you that my resistance to change in that instance was just, have you ever had a toddler just squeeze onto you? You can't get rid of that toddler. It's just hanging on to you. It doesn't want you to go. That's how I was with my marriage. It was like I knew I was done with it, but I kept hanging on to it. And I was angry that I was hanging on to it because I wasn't happy in the marriage, and I was very worried about my kids. It had nothing to do with being afraid of change, except that it had everything to do with being afraid of change. It was just a lot of change all at once. The spiritual tool that I used to move through not wanting to leave, or wanting to leave but not leaving, to being ready to leave, was The Sopranos. Anybody watched The Sopranos? My ex-husband loved The Sopranos. He kind of imagined himself the godfather of his family. He was a very important person. He was the patriarch at that time, and definitely over here in the States, he was the oldest male in his family, and he really liked to feel important. You know, when he'd tip a waiter, he wouldn't just leave it on the table. He'd pull the bills out and throw it on the table. And he really identified with the character of Tony Soprano. And I started to identify with the character of his wife, Carmela, I think was her name. It's been so many years. It's been 20 years now. And it got to a point in the storyline where those two were going to split. And Carmela wanted Tony out of the house, and Tony was really upset about it because, by God, he brought home the bacon, and she just enjoyed all the benefits, but none of the work around the sustaining of the household. But she was absolutely certain she was done with his nonsense. She wanted him gone, and she started doing things like squirreling away money here and there. She'd find his cash stashes, because he's a mobster, gangster, a lot of illegal cash on hand. And I was like, I've been doing that. I've been gathering evidence against him to justify leaving. So I'm watching the show, and at that time I was in therapy. Thank God for my therapist, Carrie. She was absolutely the best friend to me through this growth. She was the first person to say to me, my God, you process things quickly. I'm like, why drag it out? Once you make the decision, just bam, move forward. So I processed my emotions very quickly, but I went from one episode to the next episode. I made the transition. I was watching what Carmela was doing. I'm like, Carmela, you're an idiot. No, don't go back. I'm like, I haven't walked my talk in that regard, because I was still there. And I walked into therapy, and I told my therapist about this TV episode. She was probably bored stiff, but then I finally said, you know what? And I realized I'm done. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move on. I'm watching this character make this decision to stay in an unhealthy situation, and I can't fathom why she would do that. Except that I kind of get it's going to be hard for her, right? When it's me, it's insurmountable. But for someone else, it's just going to be hard for them for a minute. And as soon as I was able to recognize, okay, it's going to be hard for me for a minute, it's not really insurmountable. I don't want to go through this process, but I will. And at the next therapy session, I told her, I said, yeah, I'm done. He's moving out. And she was like, whoa, that was really fast. But I was able to use The Sopranos as a spiritual vehicle for just a minute. A TV show. And we do that sometimes. And the encouragement that I'd like to give is that we all start looking at the world symbolically and seeing what's working for us, what's not working for us. I was driving one day, and I noticed that there was a vehicle facing the wrong direction on my side of the road, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Someone abandoned their vehicle. And I kept driving, and this guy zoomed by, and I thought he was going to hit me in the oncoming traffic going the wrong direction. And I'm like, what is it with everybody going the wrong direction? And I pulled over because I'd been a little bit, skeeved out by what was going on, and I got my GPS, and I punched the directions, and what do you know? I was going the wrong direction. I was going the wrong direction. And it just was something that is possibly a coincidence, but for me it was huge. Just paying attention to what's going on around me. How strange is that I saw two people going the wrong direction, only to come to find that I was going the wrong direction. Life is symbolism. And there's so much to learn if you're just awake to what's around you. And one of the ways to be awake to what's around you is to understand how life works. And one of the ways we understand how life works is to visit universal truths that have been discovered throughout history and across different cultures. And that's what I'd like to do. For the next 2 months, let's look at some universal truths that have supported other people in achieving greater and greater sense of thriving in their lives. Let's use those as tools to explore the roadmaps of our heart. Let's use those tools to come to an understanding of who we are, where we're going, and how we're going to get there, to a place where everybody thrives. Why don't we pray on that? And so we simply come to a place of center, knowing that God is all there is. There's only one life, one presence, and that is God. God is that which has its center everywhere and its circumference everywhere, nowhere, and therefore we are centered in spirit at all times, for spirit is centered in this room. Spirit is centered in each and every person, the circumference of which cannot be found, for it is so big and unending. And so knowing that each and every one of us are a divine expression of that divine life, that single divine life unified in our spirituality, unified as the manifestation of God, unified as being God in expression, each and every one of us in our own way. And so I know that whatever spiritual vehicle we use to move ourselves forward, we are supported by Spirit, we are directed by life, and fully held in the love of the universe. And so it is. Amen.